everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Sarah, and today I just want to talk a little bit about what the process is like settling down in Japan after you arrive. So things like going to City Hall, going to the bank, finding a job, interviews, and a few other things. So with that being said, let's get started. So I arrived in Tokyo about 3 weeks ago. I obviously had to do 2 weeks of quarantine because of the times that we're in right now. And then I moved in with my homestay family, which is where I am right now. And there will be videos about that in the future, about my experience and everything. It's been great so far. They're great people. There have been a lot of difficult things since I've arrived. The very first thing I had to do once I got out of quarantine was go to City Hall to do several things, such as register my address that I'm living at, get my health insurance, the national health insurance that is provided to those who do not have insurance through a workplace, get my number, which is used a lot of times for identification. It's kind of a new thing, but it is useful, so it's good to have. And also get an exemption on pension payments since I am a student. If you are a student coming to Japan to go to a language school, a vocational school, or a college, you can register to get a pension exemption so that you do not have to pay into a pension, since if you're an international student, obviously you may not be there long term. And also, if you're a student, you don't usually have a lot of money, so that's why there's an exemption for students. So I would recommend either bringing someone who speaks Japanese with you, someone who can translate with you, or a translation app. Just using something like Google Translate is great pretty much at all of the places that I'm talking about having to go to get things done. That's a great option. It works. It's not perfect translation, but you can get the idea across. And we ended up being there at the City Hall. I did for about 2 to 3 hours. So definitely prepare for it to take a while, because it probably will. Now with the bank, I actually had to go about 3 days after getting out of quarantine, because I really wanted to get a part-time job as soon as possible so I could start bringing in money. In order to actually sign up for a job and get to start, you have to have a direct deposit. You have to have a bank account where you can put a direct deposit. Depending on where you're going, whether you get the paperwork done ahead of time or not, and how well you can communicate in Japanese, it may take, I've heard some people it takes them 25 minutes. So there are 3 forms, 2 for the actual bank account, 1 is an agreement form for taxes between the US and Japan. But for me, it took about 2.5 hours, mainly because I didn't understand what the bank attendant was asking me to do when she was asking me to fill out my name in the boxes, because and this is an issue for a lot of Western people, if you have a middle name, that there's not enough boxes for each character in your name in the name section. So she ended up telling me that I could put them more than 1 letter in the same box, but it wasn't until my 3rd time filling out the form that I finally got that she was asking me to fill it out in all capitals with my last name first, my first name second, my middle name last. But after the paperwork was done, it was pretty quick. I'd say I had to wait maybe 20 minutes for them to get all the paperwork done and get me a bank book. I did do Japan Post Bank because it's one of the easiest places to get a bank account. If you're a new resident, you haven't been here for 6 months yet, and B, you don't have a hanko, which is the stamp, the circular little stamp that has your name on it that you use basically as a second signature or as a signature. But at this bank, Japan Post Bank, you can just use your signature. So like I said, I was really trying my best to get a job as soon as possible. So I had been already applying to places before I even got out of quarantine. Since I'm an English speaker, pretty much all the jobs I've been applying for are cram schools, tutoring, that sort of thing in English. The place that I got the most response out of, surprisingly, because I've heard that it's not always so great, was Gaijin pot jobs. And I applied to 2 jobs there. I got interviews at both of them and I got both the jobs. So right now I have 2 jobs. One is as a tutor, English tutor, and one is as a teacher at a cram school. And both of them are $30 an hour. Now, the thing that I want to let people know ahead of time is a lot of times with tutoring and with cram schools, you're not going to have a whole lot of hours right off the bat. Usually, not always, it kind of depends, but sometimes they're not going to want to give them to you right away. Obviously with tutoring, you're not just automatically going to have people, you're going to have to slowly build a clientele. And with Juku, with cram schools, a lot of times, like, they might have you fill in gaps, so you may not start out working a lot of hours until they get to see like how you work out after, say, a month, and then start giving you more hours, especially obviously if you're punctual, you're good at your job. Usually then they start giving you more hours if they haven't already. I think the reason that I actually got something back from Gaijin pot jobs was probably because the pandemic and not a lot of people can get in the country. So they are looking to hire part-time workers to fill in the gaps, because they can't get people in because there's not enough native English speakers coming to the country right now. Well, if it were not a pandemic, obviously there would be more options. So keep that in mind. So the interviews at both of the English teaching places that I went to, I actually physically went to interview at them. And honestly, both of them were very enjoyable. I feel lucky as an American that both of the interviewers that I was interviewed by were Americans, so we could like kind of share our experience and have some camaraderie around that. But you know, it's very common questions that you normally see, like what's your experience, what drew you to teaching, or what interests you about it, what are your qualifications, do you know anything about our company? That's always a good thing to do. I've interviewed at many jobs before in the past, not just in Japan. It's always good to do your research on the company before you come in, even if it's just a tiny bit. If you know anything, usually they'll be impressed. But I will let you guys know how those jobs go. And another thing, obviously, if you are coming from a place, a town, or a city where that's not very big, where you usually have to drive places a lot, you might want to get some good shoes and bring those with you, because there's a lot of walking. For me, I walk to school 40 minutes every day and then 40 minutes back. And then also sometimes I go out and run an errand, and that might be a 20-minute walk there and back. So be prepared to be overwhelmed for the first maybe week. The first few days were really painful. My ankles were swollen, but I took some ibuprofen, the swelling went down, and after a while I got used to it, and really didn't take that long at all. So invest in a good pair of shoes. I also have insoles, and I would recommend getting those if you have a tendency to have issues with like maybe back or leg pain at all. Here soon, I'm going to be putting out a video about a day in my life here while I'm going to school. So if you would like to see that, please subscribe. Also, please like this video. If you have anything you would really like to see or know about here in Japan or Tokyo, just let me know down below in the comment section. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye!